Tonight, financial planning, billions in new government spending as Canadians try to cope with a rise in just about everything. What's there and what isn't?
Thousands upon thousands of new homes.
This disgusting scam.
Full team coverage of how the promises will affect you.
Could bring some of these hostages home very soon.
Late developments tonight on a hostage deal in the Israel-Hamas war. In India, the race to rescue dozens of workers trapped in a tunnel. Plus, the fallout on Taylor Swift's tour tragedy.
Just needs to get water to them.
And a small town gets a big surprise.
I was sort of dumbfounded when I found out that all of it went to the town.
The generous gift from a secret millionaire.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening, everyone. There has been a major development tonight in the Middle East. The Israeli War Cabinet met into the early hours. They've struck a deal with Hamas to pause the fighting for 4 days and free dozens of hostages. Israel's prime minister calling it a difficult decision, but the right one. He's been under pressure to bring them home since they were kidnapped 6 weeks ago. They're being held in Gaza, where a humanitarian crisis is deepening by the day. CTV's Heather Wright starts us off with the late details.
A marathon meeting of Israel's cabinet as politicians debated the terms of a deal to free hostages.
We are very optimistic.
The negotiations have been brokered primarily by Qatar and reportedly include the release of 50 hostages held by Hamas in Gaza in exchange for 150 Palestinian women and teenagers in Israeli jails. There would also be a pause in fighting for the first time in 46 days. Israel's prime minister insists the pause will be brief. We are at war and we will continue to fight, Benjamin Netanyahu said. No military-age men are part of the deal, though their families hold out hope they will soon be released.
It's difficult to know that he's not the first in line, but we do understand it. But we are not going to give up.
The pause in fighting will allow humanitarian organizations time and safety to distribute more aid to more people who desperately need it. The World Health Organization warned today of a recipe for epidemics, with nearly 2 million people displaced, dropping temperatures, and scarce food. 50 trucks and more than 75,000 liters of fuel have entered the enclave in the last 24 hours, according to the United States, while 3 hospitals in the north have requested the UN's help in evacuating patients. This baby is among the premature infants evacuated from Al-Shifa Hospital on Sunday. He's now in a hospital in the south, but no one knows who he is. We don't know where his family is or who to contact, this doctor says. One family, though, was able to reunite with their daughter, who was also at Al-Shifa. 3 days ago, we heard news they are moving the babies, this mother says, finally reuniting with her infant. The hostages are not expected to be released all at once, rather in smaller groups over the coming days. Netanyahu said the Red Cross will be brought in to check in on the nearly 200 hostages left behind. Omar.
Heather Wright on those late developments tonight. Heather, thank you. Here at home, the focus was also on today's economic snapshot from the federal government. The positive news, it believes Canada will avoid a recession, but with next to no growth and tens of thousands of people expected to lose their jobs, there are warnings of dark clouds ahead. Here are the headline numbers. The deficit is projected to be about $40 billion this year, around the same as what was predicted in the spring budget. But with interest rates at a 20-year high, the cost of paying down the debt will soar to $46.5 billion this year. There's also $20.8 billion in new spending over 6 years. CTV's Annie Bergeron Oliver breaks down the figures and the plan to build more homes. The opposition insists will do little to solve a critical need in the short term.
Pitched as a plan to get more Canadians into affordable rental units. Ottawa's fiscal update promises $6.2 billion for housing, but some of the measures won't roll out for another 2 years.
There's a lot of positives to be said around the government's housing policy.
The problem is the magnitude of the issue that they're trying to deal with and their scope to actually make a difference.
The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation has said an additional 3.5 million homes need to be built by 2030 to meet demand and restore affordability. To add more supply, Ottawa is promising companies building new rental properties an additional $15 billion in low-cost loans starting in 2025-2026, a measure that is expected to create 30,000 new units.
It's nice to have all the trees over there.
Ottawa is hoping to get tens of thousands of more units on the market by making it less lucrative to own short-term rentals. Starting January 1st, income tax deductions will be denied for owners in regions that have prohibited short-term rentals. $50 million over the next 3 years will be available to municipalities doing enforcement. And by 2028, Ottawa is hoping an injection of $1 billion over 3 years to nonprofit, co-op, and public housing providers will create 7,000 affordable homes.
Because our country needs more homes, and we need more of them fast.
One thing left out, pharmacare, a key pillar of the Liberal NDP deal, got no mention, though the NDP leader says he never expected money to be tied to it.
It was never in our plan to have the actual program laid out. It is to have the legal framework and legislation tabled.
There remains no path to balance, and since the budget in March, $20.8 billion in new spending has been announced. The only major cuts in this update, an extra $2.4 billion from the public sector starting in 2025.
You know, a year ago, this finance minister told the House she'd have the budget balanced by the year 2028. In that time, she has announced $100 billion of additional debt above and beyond having doubled that debt in the first place.
The NDP says there's nothing in today's fiscal update they'll immediately say no to, meaning the Liberals will likely have the support they need, Omar, to implement today's promises.
All right, Annie, thank you. And joining us now for a look at what the numbers mean to Canadians is BNN Bloomberg's Amanda Lang. There is so much to absorb in this fall economic statement today, but at the end of the day, will it make life more affordable?
I think the short answer to that, Omar, has to be no, not in the short term at least. As you've heard, some of the housing affordability measures are backloaded, so you won't really feel the effects for a couple of years. And some of the affordability measures this government has already introduced have already happened. So the grocery rebate, doubling of the GST credit, those have already been spent. What you did see in this update, and it really is an update, was a nod to affordability. They're going to review roaming charges on cell phones. They're going to ask banks to look at certain fees they charge. But there's nothing really material here.
We know that homeowners right now are taking a significant hit with higher mortgage payments. And in the next couple of years, 2.2 million mortgages are going to come up for renewal. That's half of all mortgages out there, taken at a time when there were rock bottom rates. Is there any relief for homeowners?
This was signaled, and we got the Canadian Mortgage Charter, which is basically asking the banks to adhere to certain practices, including calling homeowners who are due in 6 months to talk about what they're going to do, extending amortization periods to help make it more affordable, things that the banks might be doing anyway, but it's kind of crystallizing it into it's voluntary as far as we know, Omar, but a kind of a package that says look after your customers a little bit better. So that should actually offer some relief to homeowners. So
not binding. So key takeaway, Amanda, in a nutshell, what's the big headline?
You know, the big one is this is a kind of a fiscally prudent update, if you will. What you'll hear probably from economists is they wish it happened a year or so ago, because it's a real nod to spending is backloaded. It's still to come. The economy is slowing, and debt, as you said, interest charges are going through the roof. So that adds up to maybe next spring there's not that much money in the kitty.
All right, Amanda Lang, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your perspective this evening. And for our look at today's takeaways from the fall economic statement, for more of them, you can check out our website, ctvnews.ca. Falling gas prices helped drive inflation lower last month, 3.1% in October, down from 3.8% the month before. But as we mentioned, there's been little relief from mortgage interest costs and rent. CTV's Adrian Gobriel on the struggle just to get by.
The recent cost of living has been a heavy haul for many Canadians. And slamming the door on inflation has come at a price.
This is another really good inflation report for Canada. Not all the way back to 2% yet, but certainly in the right direction.
The three biggest contributors to inflation over the last month include the cost of groceries, mortgages, and rent.
Mortgage interest costs up 31% in the past year pretty well explains why the economy is flat on its back.
As mortgage payments increase, so do rental prices, which hit a new high for a 6th consecutive month. The average asking price for a rental unit in Canada reached more than $2,100 in October, a 9.9% year-over-year increase.
You're just so tired all the time from working so hard to try to make as much money as you can just to be able to go to sleep at night.
Deshaun Shaw recently had to move into his father's basement. After splitting up with his girlfriend, he could no longer afford rental prices north of Toronto on a single income.
It's so difficult as a single person. Without help, it's just, you can't do it.
The rents that are being offered today, it's just gone up in an extraordinary way.
Mortgage broker Ron Butler recently appeared at a federal finance committee hearing on the price of housing in Canada.
If the Bank of Canada was to reduce interest rates, would this help with mortgage payments and then eventually bring down inflation?
It would absolutely have the effect of reducing inflation. All the pressures the landlords feel from increased mortgage cost go down, and that should cause some relief amongst renters.
As for when that might happen remains a hotly debated topic amongst economists, though all signs are pointing to the Bank of Canada holding rates next month. Omar.
All right, Adrian, thank you. Well, if you're heading to the grocery store between now and January, you may be relieved to hear that hundreds will be offering price freezes in a bid to follow through with a promise they made to Ottawa. But most of the discounts they're offering at this time of year are not new. CTV's Geneviève Beauchemin explains.
On the menu at some grocery stores near you, a new list of prices frozen through the holidays. No hike, says Empire, that runs banners like Sobeys, Freshco, IGA on the totality of our packaged production portfolio. Now, that's not exactly a brand new holiday gift. Keeping consumer costs stable on many items for this season's sales blitz is actually a long-standing industry practice. But this year, the Empire network of grocers expanded the list of frozen price tags by roughly 10%. It's finally a taste of the plans grocers promised Ottawa nearly 2 months ago to stabilize costs for consumers or face new taxes.
I expect more. I won't be satisfied with that, but I see that it's a step in the right direction.
Loblaw, too, rolled out part of its response, offering weekly deals on 35 basic food items. The cost of those staples ranks at the top of the list of concerns for many of Quebec's public sector workers. 420,000 hit the streets today, among them teachers, hospital support staff, demanding higher wages.
People don't have enough money to go pay for groceries. They have to go get food at the food banks.
The Liberals pledged again today to investigate issues like shrinkflation, for instance, same packaging, less content, and establish a grocery task force. But experts say measures put in place by the grocers so far are likely too modest to help most consumers pack their fridges.
One way the grocers are lucky that the prices are stabilizing because some of the factors which were working against them are now working for them in terms of lower transportation prices, lower raw material prices.
Cost savings would be more likely to be passed on to grocery shoppers if competition increases, says Ottawa. Ottawa committed today to making more changes to the Competition Act, saying bolstering competition is key to delivering real deals to consumers. Omar.
All right, Geneviève, thank you. Coming up, trapped in a tunnel.
You have this very timely goal that you need to accomplish as quickly as possible, but as safely as possible.
Inside the rescue efforts to free dozens of Indian workers stranded underground. Plus, a sleepy town wakes up to a surprise from a frugal millionaire. Canadian hockey player Milan Lucic appeared in a Boston court today, accused of attacking his wife.
Can you explain what happened?
He pleaded not guilty to assault. Police say they were called Saturday night after his wife reported Lucic tried to choke her. He is now on indefinite leave from the Boston Bruins. We are getting first images tonight of dozens of Indian construction workers stuck inside a collapsed highway tunnel for days. 41 anxious faces appeared on camera from a large cavern as a complex mission to free them carries on. CTV's Bill Fortier on the optimism after a terrifying ordeal.
As efforts ramp up to get 41 people out of this collapsed mountain tunnel, For the first time, video confirmation they're okay. With a small medical camera and a radio pushed through 53 meters of 15-centimeter wide pipe, officials in India were able to see and talk to the trapped workers and let them speak to loved ones. He's fine, said this woman after speaking with her brother-in-law. His plea to her: just tell us what they are doing to get us out of here.
We're going to get those men out.
Rescuers have a plan to drill down from above carefully to avoid more collapses, then install a larger pipe that workers can crawl through. They've been trapped since November 12th when a section of the 4.5-kilometer highway tunnel they're building collapsed, blocking their exit.
This is still an extremely dangerous environment, so we're making it safe for the rescuers in there as well.
From afar, it looks like they're doing all the right things.
Sean Rideout oversees underground rescue operations in Ontario, including a similar situation a little more than 2 years ago. 39 people were rescued from a mine near Sudbury after the main shaft was blocked. He says as the days pass, further communication will be key to avoid panic.
So reassuring them, keeping them apprised of what's happening and giving them accurate info just helps keep those spirits up, right?
Today, along with food and medicine, rescue teams were able to send a message down the pipe. In Hindi, we will reach you soon, don't worry. Efforts to drill through the debris have hit several setbacks, but this morning, one government official told reporters there could be what he calls a breakthrough within the next 30 to 40 hours. Bill Fortier, CTV News, Edmonton.
Workers at a nature reserve in England were treated to a celestial spectacle around sundown yesterday. Birdwatchers called the sky show a murmuration, and they occur when thousands of starlings twist and turn in a synchronized cloud of movement. A stunning image. Still ahead, ruffled feathers over a Christmas ritual.
You know you messed up when you get a Canadian mad enough to say hell.
2, 1!
A tree lighting so unceremonious, it lightens up late-night TV. It was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime for two young Taylor Swift fans who traveled to Rio de Janeiro for her concert. Instead, their lives were cut short. A man was stabbed to death. A woman went into cardiac arrest in the sweltering heat. CTV's Jill Makashawn on a world tour turned tragic.
Under cloudy skies and cooler temperatures, Taylor Swift returned to the stage Monday, wrapping up the Rio leg of her Eras tour, one scarred by tragedy. 2 fans dead, a young man stabbed to death outside the concert venue, and a young woman who collapsed inside. Searching for your dead daughter, it is difficult, says Jose Machado. 23-year-old Ana Clara Benavides Machado died after losing consciousness at the outdoor stadium Friday. Her father is demanding to know if his daughter had access to water prior to and during the concert. Rio's police are awaiting autopsy results. We need the tests to be able to reach a conclusion if there was criminal responsibility. With temperatures soaring to 41 degrees Celsius, fans complained they had difficulty accessing water at the outdoor stadium, at one point calling from the front rows, with Swift stopping the show to ask her staff to help.
Just needs to get water to them.
Swift also seemingly overwhelmed during the concert, gasping to catch her breath. She rescheduled Saturday's show in Rio because of the heat, disappointing fans. Some waited hours outside. The Eras tour, spanning 5 continents, is expected to rake in more than $4 billion. Artists can dictate the rules for cell phone use or cameras during shows. Food and drinks are usually the responsibility of the venue, says this music industry insider.
When it comes down to the actual pricing of water or alcohol or food, not many artists have that power because that is where the venue and the promoter makes their share of the money.
Brazil's government has issued a directive to allow water bottles to be brought into Swift's remaining concerts. The Eras tour continues in Sao Paulo, Brazil, Friday. Jill Makashawn, CTV News, Winnipeg.
The Rolling Stones have revealed plans for a North American tour next year. The rock and roll band, which first came together in 1962, is still going strong. They'll play pieces from the album they released last month, the first time they've released original material in 18 years. The 16-date North American tour begins in late April and runs through July. And there's just one Canadian stop, July 5th in Vancouver. And before we go to break, the Canadian Christmas tree that even stumped a late-night host.
That's it? What the hell?
Yeah. I think they lit the wrong tree or something.
Jimmy Fallon poking fun at a holiday tradition, lighting the tree in Orillia, Ontario. Because of its age, the branches can't support lights, so organizers only decided to light up the trunk. And clearly lighting up a lot of reaction. Coming up.
I was sort of dumbfounded when I found out that all of it went to the town.
A generous gift from a New England town's Secret Santa. Tonight, a New Hampshire man who embraced simple living is epitomizing the saying, never judge a book by its cover. The 82-year-old kept a secret from the world, and CTV's Joy Malbin uncovers it.
In the town of Hinsdale, New Hampshire, a place where people know one another by name, Jeffrey Holt lived a simple life. He worked in a mobile home park, didn't own a car or that much furniture. Everyone felt they knew him, or so they thought.
He would sit on an old lawnmower tractor and ride his bike through town, and that's really all you knew of him. I would begin to wave to him because I felt like I knew him.
Holt was unassuming and dressed that way. No TV, no computers, a Navy veteran who collected model cars, train sets, and loved history. When he died at 82 this year, his best friend and former boss revealed that his frugal friend was sitting on a fortune.
When Jeff realized that he had a couple $1 million in the bank, he didn't know what he was going to do with it. I was sort of dumbfounded when I found out that all of it went to the town.
Leaving the town of 4,000 people nearly $4 million. It seems the man who lived a thrifty life was a shrewd investor in communications stocks.
I mean, I think everyone was basically shocked.
There's talk now of fixing the old town clock, grants to the scouts for uniforms, or in a town where votes are still hand-counted, a voting machine to honor Holt, who never missed an election.
So I think it's just a wonderful gift at a wonderful time of the year to receive such a gift.
A gift from the man who didn't want for much and gave back so much more. Joy Malbin, CTV News, Washington.
What a story, an incredible act of giving. That is a snapshot of this Tuesday for all of us at CTV National News. Thank you for watching and see you tomorrow. Good night.